Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to your maths lesson today. Today, our learning intention is that we are learning to measure and record a square meter and estimate and measure areas using square meters. So today we're going to learn a little bit about area and we're going to have a little talk about square meters and when we'd use square meters. You are going to create your own square meter and then use that to measure area. So what is area? Area is the amount of space inside the boundaries of a 2D shape, okay? So it's the boundaries around the outside. The area is everything in between that 2D shape, okay? These spaces are always flat spaces, okay? So the area is the flat space on that two-dimensional shape. Some examples of these flat surfaces include maybe a postage stamp, maybe the front cover of a book, the top of your desk, the floor of a room, or a sports oval. How is area different to length? Okay, so length is a one-dimensional measurement. So the length, okay, is one-dimensional. It measures the distance between one point and another in a straight line. Area is two-dimensional. It is a two-dimensional measurement. It measures the space inside a shape. And so therefore, area has both length and width. So I want you to think about a book, okay? Area is all the space in between this shape. The length and the width is involved when we have a look at the area. How do we measure area? Length is measured in centimeters and meters, okay? Length is measured in centimeters and meters. As we've learned already, length is one-dimensional. Centimeters and meters cannot be used to measure area because area is two-dimensional. So how do we measure area? To measure area, we need to use a unit of measurement that has both length and width. This is why squares are used. The most common units used to measure area are square centimeters and square meters, okay? So square centimeters and square meters. What is a square centimeter? Shapes can be divided into small squares to measure their area. These small squares are called square centimeters. A square centimeter is a square with the sides measuring 1 centimeter in length. It is written like this. So have a look at the screen. I've written it 1 centimeter squared, okay? The 2 is the symbol for squares, okay? Remember that because that's how we write our value when you're answering either centimeter squared questions or meters squared questions. So you would have seen this before. We have our 1 centimeter squared because every length around the 2D shape measures 1 centimeter each. Now, if we have a look at this rectangle, okay, we have used the 1 centimeter square to fill in between the length and the width of that rectangle. Now, this rectangle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So its area is 10 square centimeters or 10 centimeters squared. Now, when we get back up to much larger spaces, the centimeter square isn't going to work because it's too small. It would take so much time to try and measure something such as a soccer oval, as you can see on my screen. With centimeters, it would just take forever and it'd be very confusing. So to make that easier, we would use meters or meters squared. So large spaces can be divided into larger squares to measure their area. These larger squares are called square meters. A square meter is a square with sides measuring 1 meter in length. it is written like this, 1 meter squared. Again, this 2, the little 2 is the symbol for squares. Now have a look at our meter square down here. This is not to scale, obviously. So they've used the green square, okay, as the example, and each length is 1 meter square, okay? They've then used that to put over our soccer field. So the area of this field is 144 square meters or meters squared, okay? So we know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, okay? So they've measured out a meter square and they've used that to measure much larger spaces. Counting squares to calculate area. Square centimeters have been drawn inside these shapes. We're going to count these together. So I want you to count with me inside each shape to calculate the area. So let's have a look at the first shape using the pink squares. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not just 9. The answer needs to be 9 centimeters squared, okay? Our blue shape, okay, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? Ooh. So that is 10 centimeters squared. I want you to have a look at the yellow shape. I want you to count and say out loud how many centimeters squared the area is of the yellow shape. And then I'm going to reveal the answers for you on the next slide. There we go. You can see we were correct. There was 9 centimeters squared in the pink shape, 10 centimeters squared in the blue shape, and our yellow shape was 12 centimeters squared. Now it's really important to put that little 2 symbol at the top of the centimeter symbol, because that shows us that we are calculating area, not length. Okay, so that's very important. Counting squares to calculate area. All right, so you can do this right now. In your book, you can pause this video and draw at least 5 different shapes on a piece of grid paper, okay? So if you have mass grid paper at home, if you don't, that's okay. You can use a ruler for this. You are going to draw 5 different shapes using your ruler. They can be any kind of shapes. Try to keep them on the lines if you can, because it will help your partner or your family member count the square centimeters, okay? You're going to use the square centimeters on your page to count the area. You might use colored pencils to help you count the shapes or color in the shapes, and then swap it with someone maybe in your house or in the class, and they see if they can work out the area. You might like to take a photo of this and upload it onto your Google document to submit to your teacher as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that activity. Now that we have a bit more of an understanding of what area actually is, I want you to say out loud, when would you use square meters to measure a certain space? So think about, when might you use square meters, not square centimeters, square meters. Some of the suggestions you might have come up with things such as football fields, maybe the school playground. You might measure your room, so your room in your house or some rooms in your house. You might measure the area of a car park, all those types of big spaces. So bigger spaces where the centimeter would just be way too small would be when we would use square meters to measure the area of certain spaces. So just to clarify again, square centimeters are not suitable for measuring large areas. Large areas, such as the area of a room, are measured using the square meter. The symbol for the square meter we've looked at is the M for meter and the little two, that says squares, okay? We know to find the area, we need to use both the length and the width, okay? Length and width to get the meter square. Now, on your next activity for today. For today's activity, you are going to need a measuring tape or ruler to measure out 1 meter. So if you have a 30 centimeter ruler at home, you can still use this to measure out 1 meter, because we know that 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. So you can use your 30 centimeter ruler to measure out 100 centimeters, and that will get you 1 meter. If you do have a measuring tape at home, you can also roll this out to help you measure 1 meter. Another idea that I have used before with my students is to use a piece of string and use the piece of string and have my ruler measure 100 centimeters and then cut the string. So I know that that string is exactly 100 centimeters, which is 1 meter. So that's another idea that you might do if you have a piece of string around the house, so you know you've got that measurement. You are going to create your own square meter today. So I'm really looking forward for you to getting hands-on in your maths again, and not just doing some questions on paper. You're going to actually get involved today. The length and width of your square meter must be 1 meter each side, okay? In today's activity, I've asked you to use newspaper because that is quite easy to stick together. It's already quite large. You can cut it and manipulate it quite easily. But if you don't have newspaper, you can use absolutely anything in your household or in the classroom with your parent or teacher permission, okay? So if you don't have newspaper, you might use an old sheet or maybe some magazines together or some scrap paper. You might have some recycling cardboard boxes. Be creative. But yeah, make sure you have that 1 meter along the length and 1 meter as the width to make your square meter. Now, after you make your square meter, you will use this to answer the questions on the resource, okay? So on the school website, it would be under Thursday's maths activity. So you can use that to complete the questions. I really cannot wait to see you getting your hands dirty and getting involved in your maths learning today. And please feel free to take a photo of you creating those square meters and uploading them onto the Google document and submitting that to us. That's a really fun part of maths, and it helps build that visualization of what area actually is. And I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you next time.